All right, let's talk today about working out after you have brain surgery. Now, I've talked a lot about on my channel about the type of surgery I had, but just to kind of go back to the beginning, I had a tumor in my pituitary gland, so I had what's called an endonasal approach to brain surgery, which means they went through my nose. Now, to give you some background on my exercise history, I have worked out my entire life. I was a competitive athlete in high school, in college. I ran track, I ran cross country, and fitness has always been a big part of my life. And currently I'm 35. I stopped competing when I was 20, like at the end of college, so 21 or so, 22, something like that. And so that was in 2011. Now, from 2011 until present day, I have worked out consistently, and 90% of the time it was by myself. So, the longest that I have ever taken off from working out we can go back to high school, but since I've been an adult and out of college, the longest that I've taken off from working out has been during the time that I was recovering from brain surgery. So in a decade plus, I never took more than for brain surgery, I was out for like 6 weeks. So for over a decade, I never took more than 6 weeks off. So with that being said, I was also used to a very high level of intensity of working out and a high frequency of working out. This all plays into the picture when I get to the next part. So that should give you some perspective into my mindset and my history when it came to exercise in general. Now, I had brain surgery in the middle of November of 2023, so it's been a little over a year now post-op. And I couldn't do anything for 6 weeks. I think I was cleared to start working out 6 weeks post-op. Something like, it was either 6 or 8 weeks. I think it was 6 though. Now, when one of my surgeons told me that I could start working out, I was feeling two things. On the one hand, I was very excited to work out because I was getting so tired of sitting around. Now I get it. Girl, you just had brain surgery. Yes, sit down. I understand that. And that's how I was feeling in the very beginning. For the first few weeks, you don't want to do anything. You're in so much pain. You cannot even fathom trying to work out. But, as time goes on, you start to get a little bit restless. You start to have a little bit of cabin fever because you're just pretty much in the house. I'll say the most activity I got prior to starting to work out was one day, this was maybe a month after surgery. I was back in my place because right after surgery, I was at my parents' house for a couple weeks because you can't be alone. But, once I came back to my place, I wanted to go to the museums. And to give you context, I live in the DMV area. So I took the train into the city to go to the Natural History Museum, my favorite museum. So the ride there, also, that brings up a good point. I know I'm all over the place, but please bear with me. So for the metro here in the DMV area, part of it will go underground. And I didn't even think about this prior to going on this like day trip. Because had I known or had I thought about that, I probably wouldn't have done it. As we're on the train and we go underground, that pressure change I felt instantly. And I thought, honest to God, I thought my head was going to explode. And I almost started panicking. I was just like, I need to get out of here. But I couldn't go anywhere. Like, I was just going to have to ride the train until we got back above ground. So I tried to calm myself down. I was like, okay, your head is not going to explode. It sounds dramatic, but if you haven't experienced this, then you really can't say what's dramatic or not. I'll just say that. But we finally get back above ground, and I was like, okay, I'm okay. And then I had I guess I could have took a Uber home, but anyway. So going to the museum, walking around, grabbing something to eat, and then coming back home completely wiped me out. I mean, it brought on a massive migraine. and I was just exhausted. I came back in the house, took a shower, and was just out for the rest of the evening. So that was like the most activity I got before I started working out again. Now, when my surgeon told me that I was clear to start working out, he was very adamant about the intensity of the workouts. He said, you can start out at about a 50% from what you were used to. So nothing super high intensity, no sprinting, no heavy weightlifting, like ease your way into it and do that for 6 weeks. And then, I'll have another appointment. He'll, do my exam and then give me the all clear to like work out at my normal rate. So I was very happy to do it or to get cleared, but I was also terrified. So one of the first workouts I did was a jog/walk around my complex. And the way I did it was there's some hills in my complex. So I would jog the flat part and then I would walk the hills. And when I say walk, I mean walk very slowly. Because even if you walk at a regular pace, when you're walking up a hill, your heart rate is still going to get up. So I walked very slowly up the hill. If I ever felt like my heart was getting, beating too fast, I would just stop. And I would take some deep breaths and, try to bring my heart rate back down. And then I would start back up. Another thing I did was there's a gym in my building. So I would go down there and I would walk and jog backwards on the treadmill. And that's because I always had really good balance, but I wanted to ensure that my balance was not affected by the surgery. So I would, walk backwards, jog a little bit, and then do pretty much body weight stuff. I would do like lunges, squats, elevated push-ups, assisted pull-ups, stuff that was fairly easy, because the point when you start working out after brain surgery is not to gain a lot of muscle. It's not to get your cardio way up. The point is simply to move your body. And that's something that I had to really reiterate to myself. I was like, I'm not training for anything. I'm not, I don't need to go hard in the gym. I just need to move my body and get used to that again. So the other reason why I was so nervous about working out is because when they went through my nose to do the operation, they had to drill through 2 bones. And when they finished and they were patching me up, they put a synthetic graft over the holes in the bones. And I talked about this before, but they put a synthetic graft over the holes in the bones, and then scar tissue developed around it. So the bone never regrows. The scar tissue is pretty much what keeps everything together. But my surgeon told me that scar tissue is never as strong as the original bone. So there's always going to be a weak spot in my skull from where the scar tissue is and where that piece of bone is not. So I was terrified, absolutely terrified of that graft like becoming dislodged, and then the scar tissue wouldn't be strong enough to hold it together, and that would lead to a brain fluid leak, and that would lead to a brain infection. So for the first few weeks of working out, I was very nervous. And to this day, I still get nervous when I'm lifting heavier, because in my mind, if I'm exerting a lot of pressure, it's gonna boil at that one point in my head, and then it's just gonna pop out, so there are days where I'm really good and, I'm okay, and I'm fully cleared to work out and do whatever I want now. So I can sprint, I can do anything. But I will say there are still times where I'm very nervous about just that graft coming out. And that's probably gonna be a fear of mine that I'm gonna hold on to for a while. I'm realistic with myself, it's there. He told me it's a weak spot. It's always going to be a weak spot. So it is what it is. But I worked out easy for about 6 weeks, went back for another exam. He does this nasal exam where he looks, inside at the base of my skull, and he was like, everything you're doing is fine. You've healed up beautifully, so you can pretty much do whatever you want. So I don't really have any restriction. Well, in terms of working out, I don't have any restrictions. For that rest of that year, that summer, I couldn't go underwater. And I know this has nothing to do with working out, but because the summer came and, you know, I was out in the pool and I went to the beach and stuff, he cautioned me about going underwater. And I didn't go under at all. Like, I was just like, the water cannot go past here at all. This upcoming summer, I'm clear to go under. But the issue was, if there's any kind of little bacteria or, I don't know, an amoeba, something in the water, they didn't want it to be able to like go up my nose and into my brain. So, you know, now everything should be good. I should be able to go under, no problem. But the only other issue that I have is if I want to stretch, let's say, and I reach down to touch my toes, if my head is below my heart, I feel all of that blood pooling right at that surgery site. And if I hold it for more than like 5 seconds, it becomes painful. I don't know if this is a normal reaction or, you know, kind of symptom after surgery, because I don't know anybody who's had this surgery. But of course I could Google it, so I'll Google it. But I can't do that. Anytime my head is below my heart, I cannot hold that position. It feels like, again, it's gonna pop. I just keep reiterating that graft popping out or becoming dislodged. That's really what it feels like. So I don't do that. I just stretch other ways. And the only other restriction that I really have for the rest of my life is I can't do any kind of high velocity water sport. And I might go into more detail about this later, but any chance where water can shoot up my nose, it will basically scramble everything they did, and I would have to go right back to the hospital, probably have to have another surgery. So jet skiing, probably tubing. I meant to ask my surgeon if I could dive into the water. I have an appointment coming up in April, so I'll ask him then. But anytime where water can shoot up. Now, pressure change doesn't matter. I can go under the water. I can skydive, for instance. I went skydiving a few years ago, and I asked him about that. He was like, once you're healed up, the atmospheric pressure changes won't affect you. It's just water going up your nose. So I got a little off topic. We were talking about working out after surgery. So again, now I can work out fine, but I still kind of go on the side of caution when I'm working out, just to kind of play it safe. But for the most part, I'm good. But it took a lot of patience and getting through fear to get to this point. So that's working out after brain surgery.